Alright, so here we go. This is the one you've all been waiting for. The one we've all been waiting for. Well, the one I've all been waiting for, and that's TEELA. Yeah, I love TEELA. TEELA, if you don't know, is, if she's not my favorite character in the whole of Masters of the Universe, she's a close second to Skeletor. It's one of those two. I love Skeletor. Skeletor is such a great villain. Maybe one of the greatest villains of all time. Certainly one of the greatest villains of all time. Like, it's, Skeletor, Dracula, Darth Vader, the Joker, Cobra Commander, Doctor Doom. These guys are, like, as far as I'm concerned, like, the cream of the crop, the best villains ever. So, there's other ones I might add to that list, too. But those are the ones that just immediately come to mind. Here's the story behind TEELA, is that when the figures were first coming out, and I saw her on the back of the package, and I saw this weird, creepy snake lady, and I wasn't sure if she was supposed to be a good guy or a bad guy. I really didn't know. I mean, she had a snake outfit. Like, what kind of hero would wear a snake outfit? But it didn't really say on the back of the original package if they were good or bad, so it just said, Warrior Goddess. TEELA, Warrior Goddess. You can see this one says Heroic Warrior Goddess, but that wasn't how it was originally. And in the mini-comics, she didn't look like with the snake armor. She didn't have the snake armor. So I didn't know that was supposed to be the same character that was in the mini-comic. And I liked the character in the mini-comic. I thought she was cool. And when I got the figure, my grandmother bought me the figure, and I came over to visit my grandmother, and she just got me this present as like a, spoil your grandson kind of present. And one difference between this and the original figure that should be obvious to anyone who's ever seen the original figure is, in this, she's wearing her snake armor in the package, whereas the original figure, she was not wearing her snake armor in the package. It was in the package behind her. So, when I saw that figure, I fell in love, as only a 6-year-old boy could with an action figure. Now, I do have a special surprise treat, because I actually have the original TEELA with me. I do believe that these are the weapons from the commemorative figure. I don't think these are the original weapons, but this is definitely the original TEELA figure. She doesn't have the lip at the bottom here, and in fact, she might have my name kind of scratched into the bottom of her foot because my grandfather did that with our action figures. But I don't see it. That might have gotten worn off. I don't know. But I'm going to take off her accessories and set them aside. I've got a reason for doing this. So, you can see she's a little worse for wear. She's got some battle damage to her. It's there's a lot of paint rubs from little hands gripping the arms to move them around in action poses, and you can see that some of her hair has rubbed off of her. See there? And like almost all the paint on her tiara is gone. It's just like a little bit of like, residue of what used to be gold paint. No jokes about it being rubbed off of the chest. That just happens because gold paint, or the crotch. That just happens because gold paint is not very robust, as HCC 788 would say. It's that gold paint is a little more fragile, and it just rubbed off with age. I didn't really just spend a lot of time fondling TEELA when I was a child, despite my love for her. My love for her was pure. Don't you dare question my childhood crush on TEELA. But yeah, so this was the original TEELA, and we're going to do a little bit of, as Pixel Dan would say, comparison time. So, because there are quite a few differences that I noticed between this one and the original, without even taking it out of the package, just from seeing pictures of it online. There were a lot of things I noticed. One thing I like about this package already is it had the generosity to already be kind of pulled loose here at the top, so I can very easily, don't have to dig my fingernail under there like I usually have to. Just kind of work it in there. Take it nice and slow. Don't want to rush things. And again, same mini comic as the rest of the wave. You know, I figure their mini comic budget probably wasn't that high. And it's the first time Mattel has really done, like, mini comics in a retail line in a really long time. And they probably had to talk to somebody on the upper management and be like, come on, man, we gotta have these mini comics because the original figures had mini comics. And these are supposed to be Masters of the Universe Origins. We want to have those mini comics in there. And the executive was probably like, you can have one mini comic. That's it. That's all you get. But hopefully, you know, if they get such a positive reaction to these mini comics, hopefully we'll get more in future waves. And it might even be the sort of thing where, like, the individual characters each get their own, like how it used to be. Only one rubber band was holding her in. And I got that out. And we're going to set her aside for just a moment while we concentrate on the tightly wrapped bag of accessories. If anybody from Mattel is watching this who has any power or say in this whatsoever, please, for the love of God, stop wrapping them up so tightly like this. It warps the accessories. It's not good. And it's a pain in the tuchus to get them out of here like this. You made me use words I learned in Mel Brooks movies. Alright. Those are not the worst words that I learned from Mel Brooks movies, by the way, so. So, I can't just slide it out like I did Evelyn's staff. I'm gonna have, well, I guess I maybe could. Let's try going from the top. And slicing it open at the top. And see if that yields us any better result. There we go. Alright, so I can get her shield out. And immediately I can tell a difference with her shield that I will point out to you momentarily. And her staff is going to be different too, I'm sure. I've noticed one difference already. So let's go ahead and get that out. By the way, TEELA's staff is named Ka. That's K-A-A. And it helps her communicate with animals. I believe this was established in the Ladybird books. And I don't know if that's considered official canon, but I think it's at least considered official fanon. So, the snake staff, like, remember how I was saying Evelyn's staff felt a lot thicker to me than I remembered it being? Well, the snake staff is certainly thicker. I don't know how apparent it is to you, the viewer at home, but for me looking at it, yeah, like, it's apparent how much thicker the newer staff is than the older staff. And the snake head is actually a bit bigger on the older one. So that's well, I guess it's about the same size. It's a little bigger. But the snake's head on this one is thicker. The old one, it's got like a little more of like a flared out hood. This one's kind of more sort of chunky. So, but it did look bigger at first. I think that was just the angle I was looking at it from. The body of the snake on down lower, that's thicker. And the snake staff itself is thicker. And you can see, like, whereas this one is mostly curved, this one is completely rail straight for this little section of it. And then curves again at the bottom. The pommel at the bottom of the staff is much larger. Not just because the staff itself is bigger, but you can see it's almost like a little ball on this one. Kind of like Skeletor's staff, although nowhere near as big. Whereas this one, the pommel is just kind of like a flat disc that's kind of, I guess, nailed into the bottom of it or whatever. So, and then the shield is vastly different because the original TEELA shield had a little clip that held it onto her wrist. But this one instead has a handle, and that's different because, you know, like, she couldn't hold the she couldn't hold the shield in her other hand because, as you can see, it was kind of like almost like a spell-casting hand, and something, my cousin Amy had noticed, hi Amy, if you're watching this, is, that you could also fit her hand into the lock of Castle Grayskull the same way that He-Man's Power Sword did, which made a lot of sense because there are lots of serious connections between TEELA and Castle Grayskull that I won't get into right now. But, my poor TEELA, her rubber band is all warped and loose and doesn't want to stay right. I might try to replace that rubber band, since there's apparently a way that you can do that. So I'm going to take TEELA's snake armor off, and we'll compare the snake armors and see what the difference is between those. This is a much more rubbery plastic, for one thing, than the original one. Like I said, this isn't really the original one, but it's a pretty similar plastic where it's got that kind of stiffness to it, whereas this one is all kinds of fluey. And that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. I don't want to sound like I'm complaining about it, but it is different, so I want to point it out. And the sculpting is slightly different. Like, the brows on the old one are a little sharper, and they're a little more rounded off here. That seems like a stylistic decision to me, but it's clearly based on the older one. Like, they look, at a glance, they look pretty much identical, even though they're not. The little ring at the top that helps hold this onto TEELA's head, on the old figure, it's completely smooth. Like, it's not meant to be like something that's actually there. It's meant to be something that just kind of is like, you know, in terms of the action figure, it has a function, but in terms of the character, it's not supposed to actually exist. You're supposed to pretend like it's not there. Kind of like, you know, the hand guard on the Power Sword. But this one, on the other hand, they actually have some sculpting to it, so it looks like it is actually supposed to be literally there. So that's an interesting stylistic decision. Now, let's talk about all the differences between this TEELA and the original TEELA, because there are quite a few. More than there are on any of the other Masters of the Universe Origins figures that I've noticed. Where, like other than He-Man himself, who has a lot of stylistic differences. But Skeletor looks pretty much identical, like, in terms of, like, how, maybe not the execution of it, but in terms of the aesthetic of it, it's pretty clear Skeletor is supposed to look pretty much exactly like the original figure, but with a different facial expression. Same with Beastman. It might have a little more detail on the harness, the spikes might be a little more defined and things like that, but for the most part, it's clearly supposed to look like that Beastman. Evelyn, same deal. But with TEELA, there are quite a few differences that I'm going to get into right now. And the first of which is going to be her head. Now, look at the original TEELA head, and you can see that it's like this kind of cute doll-like face. You know, it's very, very girly. It's a girlish face. And this one is more like the Filmation cartoon, where it's a little more womanly. Is that the right term? She has a little more of a maturity to her face, whereas this one looks almost like it could be like a teenage girl or something. This one looks like it's you know, she's at least like college age, I guess, like in her 20s or so. And the hairstyle is definitely the Filmation hairstyle, where it's like this, it's up into like this, you know, kind of bouffant kind of thing. People call it a bun, but it's not really a bun. It's like a little, I kind of think of it as like Filmation TEELA's hairstyle. She has these really long bangs, like she's a girl trying to grow out her bangs, and she's got all of her hair kind of wound up into this kind of, you know, I guess you call it a bun or a roll or something on top of her head, and then she pulls her bangs back over that, and then puts the headband over that. That's kind of what that makes me think of. So, I don't know if that was the intention or not, but that's what it makes me think of. Whereas the original figure kind of looks more like, sort of like, she just has her hair in a ponytail on the top of her head. So, little ponytail, like maybe she's got like shoulder-length hair, and she just kind of pulled it all up on the top of her head like a ponytail, and you can see, like you can see if you compare the two, this one looks a little more styled, and this one looks a little more like kind of just, yeah, whatever. So, you know, and you can see the differences in the faces, like I'm talking about. This one looks kind of like, this one looks like Skipper, this one looks like Barbie. I guess that's the best way I can think of it. But also, like, you can see, like, her expression on the original figure is more sort of neutral and almost kind of serene. Whereas if we look at this one, it's a little more stern This one is a little more action figure-y, and I can see it as like, let me pose her hands kind of haughtily on her hips, because I can do this with this articulation. And then if I have Prince Adam here, and I can pose him and kind of a, what's the problem kind of pose, like, yeah, see, doesn't that look like something you'd see on the Filmation cartoon, where she's like sick and tired of his antics, and, you know, telling him he needs to be more responsible, and he's a prince, and he needs certain duties that he needs to fulfill, and, you know, blah, 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 take your training more seriously, I'm trying to train you to be a warrior, I'm the captain of the guard, I'm all tough, blah, blah, blah. You say, what? I'm just a prince, I just want to go in the kitchen and bake some spice bread with Cringer, like, go fishing and have picnics. So yeah, that works pretty well, doesn't it? So yeah, completely different head sculpt from the original one. Now, this is not me saying that, like, this is bad because they didn't make it like the original one. I'm fine that they didn't make it like the original one. I like that they didn't make it like the original one. I like that I have a more Filmation-accurate TEELA, and I still have this older TEELA that's the one that I played with when I was a kid. So, I like the Filmation design of TEELA, so I'm actually kind of happy to see some representation there. Now, that having been said, if at some point they want to do another TEELA figure and she comes with a vintage-style head that I can have, I'd be psyched about that, too. So, I'm just pointing out the differences so that you, the viewer, know that they're there. So, moving on, I guess I shouldn't have put her away, because I'm not done with this yet. There were lots of variations to how TEELA was colored in the original line, and the one I have is the red hair, red boots version. There's all kinds of different colorations where, like, you know, the head doesn't match the boots, and the head does match the boots. And it was basically different combinations of red and brown. And I have red boots, red hair, which is, I think, the first issue of TEELA. And then later ones might have brown hair, or brown boots, or brown hair and brown boots. This TEELA has red hair, brown boots. And much like the Evelyn I was talking about, there's a lot of good detailing in how the straps are done around the legs. And since I have this one here to compare now, you can see that it's a bit more sharply detailed than the original figure, and that's cool. So that's her boots, and she's got the same sort of high heel look of the original figure, which, like I said, wasn't actually supposed to be high heels, but it got interpreted that way. Now let's move on to the paint masking on the body, and that's where we're going to get to some more differences. Is you can see, like, even though, like I said, some of the paint is worn off because this is a 40-year-old action figure, you know, her whole breastplate was supposed to be gold. And this one is actually colored in the way that Eva Lynn's breastplate is colored, where, like, just kind of like the ram's horns that are sculpted onto the breastplate are colored in gold, and the rest of the breastplate is white. The collar is still gold, and this detailing underneath the breastplate is still gold, but really the whole breastplate should be gold, and not have the white in the center of the ram's horns like that. And also, I'm not sure if this was a stylistic choice or what, but the gold that's on this figure is not actually gold, it's just kind of a dark yellow. And the gold that's on her armbands and wristbands is kind of a yellowish tan. So it's two completely different shades of gold. Now, if you look at the original figure, then you might be like, well, it's that way on the original figure, so why are you pointing that out? Well, it wasn't that way on the original figure. When I first got this figure, this gold on the breastplate and her belt and her, whatever you call that, that's over her crotch, and the armbands and the wristbands, all of this was the same shade of gold. It was not different shades of gold. So, what happened is the stuff on the gold paint on the top part of the figure held its luster a lot better because it's on that hard plastic, versus the arms, which are on a much softer plastic. And for whatever reason, probably just from picking up dirt from lots of little kids' grubby little mitts as they were posing those arms, is the arms was starting to tarnish over age and get much darker. But originally, yeah, that was supposed to be all gold. So, and on this one, it's a kind of a dark tan and a light yellow on the, or lighter. They're both kind of dark, but again, not complaining, just pointing this out because it is a difference. And she's got the same problem with her knees that Evil Lynn had, and I'm going to try to fix that. But I think she looks great. Like, again, just being different from the original figure is not a bad thing. I'm fine with differences with the original. These aren't the original figures. These are new figures. And if you want to try something new, that's cool. They probably could have made these, more different from the original, or, the original Masters of the Universe. And I probably would have been fine with them, but I like them as they are. I'm happy with how these are turning out. So let's go ahead and gear her up, since I'm going to do something a little different here. Hebro did this on one of his videos. Since you can take these figures apart, and since this is a much more rubbery plastic, you can kind of fit her snake armor around her neck like it's a hoodie that she's got pulled down. And that way you can have an unmasked TEELA, but she's still wearing the armor. So that's cool, because it takes a figure that had 2 looks in the original version, and now she has 3. So I'm going to get another TEELA as soon as I get the chance. If they've still got some after I get paid this week, I'll probably buy another one then. And I'm going to repaint her to be the goddess. Because I liked the goddess in the mini comics. She holds the shield pretty well, by the way. And give her the snake staff in her hand. Which again, like Evil Lynn's staff, is thicker than it probably should be, but she holds onto it okay. So she looks pretty good like that. Anyway, yeah, I'm gonna get another one and repaint it to be the goddess. For those of you who don't know, in the original lineup of characters, there were going to be 2 female characters. One was TEELA, and one was the sorceress. And the sorceress was going to be the character that wore the snake armor. And she had like a green color scheme with this kind of brownish-red snake armor over it. And TEELA was the one who had the white and gold barbarian leotard kind of thing going on. And I guess because, they weren't so sure that a female figure would sell that well, they decided to combine them both into the same figure and gave TEELA the snake armor. And they still stayed separate characters in the mini comics. So you had the sorceress / goddess, and you had TEELA. Now, in the first mini comic, the sorceress / goddess, they kind of alternated between the two. I call her the goddess to differentiate her from the Filmation character that's called the sorceress, because they're different characters, technically. But the goddess was originally colored green, and then later mini comics they just colored her exactly like TEELA. And the difference is that TEELA would be wearing the regular outfit without the armor, and the goddess would be wearing the outfit with the armor. So the idea, I think, was that the kids were supposed to pretend that it was TEELA when she wasn't wearing the armor, and pretend it was the goddess when she was wearing the armor. So it was like the figure was kind of 2 for 1. But I want to have an actual figure of the goddess, so what I'm going to do is get a second one of these and paint her green like the original mini comic, and just leave the snake armor on her all the time. And then TEELA probably won't wear the snake armor that often, but she will wear it sometimes, because I have ideas about how that storyline would go. So I'm really happy with TEELA. Like I said, the knees are probably the one sticking point, and I can understand why people are having a hard time with those knees. But hopefully Mattel can adjust that problem before they put She-Ra out, because I do want to have that She-Ra figure. I think she's really cool looking. So anyway, that's pretty much it for this one, and we'll talk to you next time. Bye.